You don't own this lake anymore. Vivian Caldwell's voice sliced through the morning air like a siren. She stood on the new dock, hands on her hips, white slacks spotless, eyes full of practiced authority. Behind her, 35 white yachts bobbed gently in the place where my wife's ashes rested beneath the surface. 2 weeks. That's all it took. 14 days helping hurricane victims in Jamaica, while the HOA turned my 8-acre family lake into their private yacht club. Solar lamps, docks, signs, landscaping. Everything gleamed like it had always been theirs. But this water wasn't just land on a map. This was Laurel's Lake, the place she'd spent years studying waterfowl migration, the place where I scattered her ashes when cancer finally won. Now was branded Lakeside Estates Yacht Club, members only. Vivian smiled, like a politician presenting progress. The HOA voted 8-1, she said. Your absence counted as agreement. Democracy in action. I kept my voice steady, the way the Navy trained me. This is my property. She didn't flinch. Paper can be interpreted many ways, Captain. What she didn't know was that I'd spent half my life reading maps and coordinates written by men who charted oceans before satellites existed. Coordinates don't lie. And I had proof older than her entire HOA. 3 days earlier, I stood at dawn on that same shoreline. The fog rolled low over the lake, curling around the oaks and cattails. The water reflected clouds like glass, just as Laurel used to say it would. Now, the wildflowers she planted were gone. The tall grass had been flattened, replaced with perfect gravel and manicured lawns. Even the oak tree where we'd carved our initials had a bench bolted beneath it. The HOA didn't just pave over my land, they erased my memories. But as I walked along the eastern shore, something caught my eye, a glint in the grass. I knelt and brushed away dirt to reveal a bronze survey marker, its engraving barely visible. Section 14, Range 3W1, 1887. It was old, government old, set by the Army Corps of Engineers when this area was frontier land. Those markers were the foundation of every deed ever filed here. They didn't move. They couldn't move. I took photos from every angle, then opened my GPS app 42.73 degrees north, 83.15 degrees west. That was the truth. The coordinates of Lot 14, my lot. My lake. Laurel once told me, water remembers. She meant it scientifically, sediment, chemistry, ecosystem. But I understood it differently now. The lake remembered her, and it would remember this betrayal too. Day 4. I drove to the HOA office just after sunrise, a white colonial house at the neighborhood entrance. Inside, Bridget Fulton, the secretary, sat behind her desk, fingers trembling slightly as she flipped through folders. I asked to see the vote records. She hesitated, then handed me a binder marked October 15th, the day after I left for Jamaica. 8 votes in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Me. At the bottom was my signature, or at least someone's attempt at it. The angle was wrong. The pen pressure too light. I'd signed thousands of documents during my Navy career. I knew my own handwriting. Where's the original deed? I asked. Bridget swallowed. It's at the county recorder's office, undergoing a boundary update. The HOA requested a resurvey. Who filed it? She looked away. Vivian Caldwell. October 14th, 3 hours after my flight took off. By the time I left that office, my hands were steady, too steady. In the Navy, that was the kind of calm that came before a storm. At noon, I sat across from Sullivan Pierce, a property lawyer I'd served with years ago. His office smelled like coffee and law books. I told him everything. The missing deed, the forgery, the resurvey, the invoice for $47,000 they'd sent me. He listened without interrupting, then leaned back and said quietly, "You've got a problem, Captain. Without the original deed, I couldn't prove ownership. The fake signature gave the HOA just enough legal cover to operate. And by the time I took them to court, the yacht club would already be an established community investment." I told him about the 1887 marker. He nodded. "That helps. But you'll need more. The original survey map that matches those coordinates. And evidence they forged your signature knowingly. You show due process violation, and we can move for an injunction." Evidence, Maps, coordinates. I could handle that. That's what I'd done my whole career. That night, a courier delivered the invoice again. Printed, signed by Vivian Caldwell, with a handwritten note, looking forward to your participation in our growing community. It wasn't just arrogance. It was a challenge. 30 days. That's how long they gave me to surrender or lose my home. Day 6. I stopped by the grocery store. The look said everything. Neighbors turned away. Conversations died when I walked down an aisle. Someone whispered, "Selfish Navy guy," near the checkout. They thought I was the villain, hoarding nature, standing in the way of progress. I didn't bother correcting them. In the Navy, we learned to navigate in silence. Dead reckoning. We called it plotting your position when every instrument fails. You rely on your last known coordinates, your heading, your speed. I had all three. Last known position, the 1887 survey marker. Heading, find the original survey maps. Speed, whatever it took. The instruments might be gone, but the math never lies. Day 9. An invitation appeared in my mailbox, a cream-colored card embossed with gold lettering. Lakeside Estates Yacht Club, Grand Opening Gala. Saturday, 6 p.m. Members only. I wasn't invited, not really, but I went anyway. The sun was setting when I reached the lake. The docks were strung with lights, white tints billowing in the breeze. Waiters carried trays of champagne, while music drifted across the water. Vivian stood on stage in a flowing white dress, her smile reflecting in the lake like a halo. The crowd quieted as she tapped the microphone. "Some people cling to the past," she began, her voice smooth and confident. "They think they can own pieces of nature, lock them away as private treasures. But this community chose progress. We chose to share." The crowd applauded. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, the outcast at the fence line. I stepped forward. "Did you present the original survey map?" The microphone picked up my voice. The entire crowd froze. Vivian smiled thinly. "All materials were properly filed, Captain. If you have concerns, take them through the appropriate channels." Her secretary, Bridget, appeared beside me, holding a clipboard like a shield. "Do you have any proof? Any evidence beyond an old deed photocopy?" The crowd began to murmur. Cameras lifted. Someone laughed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I have something older than every paper you forged," I said quietly. "A marker placed in stone in 1887. It hasn't moved since the day this county existed." Then I turned and walked away. Back at home, the lake shimmered in the moonlight. From my window, the string lights looked like a trap spread across the water. In the Navy, we had a saying, "Silence before the storm isn't surrender. It's targeting." They thought they'd beaten me, that because I didn't shout, I was broken. But I wasn't finished. I still had the coordinates. I still had the photographs. And I still had the one thing no one else did, the truth anchored in bedrock. They wanted a war of paperwork. I'd give them a war of proof. Because in the end, paper burns. But coordinates don't lie.